Welcome to DevDays. Yeah, so this is going to be a great party. My job here, I'm going to keep you very briefly. I'm only going to say a few words of welcome, and then we'll turn things over to Ewout, who's the brains behind DevDays, who got this started. This is actually the 7th DevDays, but it's the 2nd annual one in the USA. How many of you were with us in Boston last year? Okay, and how many of you have never been to a DevDays before? Wow, this is really awesome. I think we have half again as many people as we had last year, and we expect to need even a bigger room next time. So it's so great. One more question. How many of you are from outside the US? All right, good. So we have a good representation. I guess my first thing is to do the traditional thank you, and I would like to first of all thank Microsoft, which provided us with this awesome facility, which we really appreciate. So thank you, Microsoft. And secondly, I'd like to thank the staff from FHIR at HL7, particularly Marita, Marianne, Mark, and Reen, who did the planning and the hard work to put this all together. I'd like to thank our speakers. We have an incredible faculty this year. You won't be able to see all of them because there are so many sessions going on, but you'll be able to talk to them all. That's one of the great things about DevDays. And I'd like to thank those of you who are HL7 members, and those of you, everyone else, of course, who wants to be an HL7 member, because we need all of you to be able to do these things and really keep the great work that Graham and the FHIR community have been achieving. Now, I'm sure I forgot somebody because that's typical of these thank you sessions. We have, in the US, we have these award ceremonies. And we had one of them last night called the Antoinette Perry Awards, the Tony Awards. And these are awards given out to the New York theater, Broadway theater, which is a tradition. And well, I did not see most of it because I was at the speakers dinner last night, but I caught just a moment of it. And the moment that I caught was the performance from the classic American musical Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is a story about the opening of the western, Debbie's from Oklahoma, of the western frontier in the state of Oklahoma, in the Oklahoma territories in the late 19th century. And somehow, well, two things about that. One is, what was really amazing about the award ceremony is that the Best Supporting Actress winner was a young woman by the name of Allie Stoker. And she was paralyzed at the age of 2 in an auto accident. And so she actually did a performance in a wheelchair and actually won the Tony Award, which is, how awesome is that? And she was the one who played the role that says, "I'm just a girl who can't say no." And what that did, it actually made me think of something else, kind of a strange mental connection. And that's all about trying to think of a metaphor of what FHIR DevDays reminds me of. And what came to mind actually was stories from the American frontier. We are in the West, the Western United States, and there was a tradition in the frontier that when a new family would move to homestead and open up a farm or a ranch, there was a tradition of the entire community coming together after they arrived to help them raise a barn raising. And so what a barn raising was is everybody got together, helped each other out, put them in place to actually build a barn over a couple of days. The whole families were there. The kids were running around delivering things. The wives were bringing water and food and serving meals. The men were out there, hammering and sawing. I don't think Microsoft will want us to use hammers and saws this week. And what they ended up with, a barn that was created. The master carpenter at the very end would get up and have a toast. He'd put a wreath or a bow on top of the barn, and they'd basically announce this barn is now ready for use. And we have our own master carpenter here, Graham, who'll be doing just that at the end of the day on Wednesday. Have to get you a wreath somewhere. And to me, that was exactly what DevDays is all about. It's about bringing the FHIR community together to accomplish really great things with the incredible power of FHIR. And, as Reen says, you're here to learn, to code, and to share. And, my mind, what we want really be doing this week is following Graham's master plan, which was, we've already shown that there's a better way to develop standards. We're already well on the way to transforming the way health IT works. And now the next horizon is to actually change the way healthcare works for the betterment of all. So that's why you're here. So let's raise some barns and have a good time. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Wayne. Yes. Can you all hear me? Good morning. Good morning. Well, that's a big group. It's not that I didn't know that. We came in yesterday and we looked around and we were like, oh my, this is serious. I mean, Wayne is talking about fire in the fire community, and I'm showing you this picture that you see here. Can anyone more or less guess what this is? This is DevDays 1. Yes, this was lunch at DevDays 1. And no, this is not 10 years ago. This is not even 5 years ago. DevDays 1 had lunch in our own offices, and we were sitting there with, a small bit of family. And so far, at each and every DevDays, we've tried to expand that family and, create a kind of community feeling and feeling that this is an open community for exchanging knowledge about fire. And I think that, for me, that's what I'd like to achieve, even though now we're with 600 over the next 3 days, is that when you come back home, you not only have learned a little bit about fire, but you also know who to talk to, who to send an email to, who that guy is on Zulip. You might already have joined Zulip, but these are just names. These people are now here. So I think one of the most important things to get done in these 3 days is to find the guy or girl that you want to exchange, you want to know, you want to learn about. It was easy back then, but we're still going to try to do it with the 600 of us. To help you out, on the website, we have this whole list of mugshots with all the experts on fire. And so these people are here for 3 days. They don't do an Uber exit after they've done their talk, right? Straight back to the airport? No. They're around, and they'll stay around for these days, so you can actually look them up and speak to them. And believe me, they like that, right? That's why we put these pictures here. Try to find them, and if you can't find them, we'll be around to help you locate these guys and let them talk about their passion with fire. Don't be shy. Really try it. Okay. If everything else fails, you probably have noticed by now there's quite a lot of people in these yellow shirts, and so we are there to help you in case you get stuck. If you're a first-timer here, and man, I've seen how many hands went up when Wayne asked about that, this can be quite overwhelming. There's a huge schedule. There's lots of materials going around. And on top of that, we have these pop-up sessions with actually even more discussions. So if you feel lost, don't worry. Just get one of these yellow shirts and ask them, what's the next step? Where should I go? We want you to feel welcome. This is a community that's open and welcome, and want to stay that way. So use these facilities. Then I will go over a little bit of the logistics with you. I know all this stuff is in your little booklet, but who reads booklets? Right? I mean, you probably had to a bit to find the password. It took me a while to find it, but if you're online now, you found it. But let's go over the most important things. So this is where we are. In fact, when you came in here in this arrow, you found reception desk. I mean, some of you have been queuing for a little bit, so you know what that is. And actually, when you were standing there, if you would have turned around, you would walk into a room called the McKinley, which is down there. We're now in the Kodiak Auditorium, and I'll be doing an opening every morning at 8:30 sharp here. There won't be music every morning, but I'll just update you with the latest. Maybe if there's important announcements, I'll be talking about that. So that's every morning at 8:30. Lunch, and I saw there was even a bed of breakfast. Lunch is served in these hallways in between the big rooms. I was surprised at the amount of food, and I can tell you there's drinks all day. And I'm being told you can even plunder those vending machines for the sodas. I've seen there's orange juice and everything. So although we have set times for coffee breaks, you can actually get your drinks throughout the whole day. If you take a look at the schedule, you'll notice that Tuesday is different. We'll still do the opening at 8:30, but if you get used to the schedule today about when the breaks are and when the tutorials start, Tuesday is shifted a little bit. So make sure you notice that in your timing schedule. It's a little bit different. Then the pop-up sessions. I mentioned it already a few more times. One of the most fun things about DevDays is maybe not all the plant tutorials. They're informative, they're really nice, but the pop-up sessions is where we discuss what's hot and actually where we are busy expanding the FHIR standard. The FHIR standard, as you know it today, is a work that we worked on for, say, the past 6 or 7 years, but of course, it's not done yet. So we're still working on parts of the FHIR specification. And what better place to work on that and discuss with you on some of the biggest issues that we're having currently for the next version of FHIR. So if you want to hear about the latest, get to one of these pop-up sessions. They are not presentations. We actually just throw in and say, this is where we're stuck currently writing the new version of FHIR. Let's discuss about this. So these are really fun. This is probably my favorite part of these DevDays, and they will be either in Sonora and McKinley. Important to know maybe is that if you have something to discuss, we can accommodate that. So if you go to the registration desk and you can look for Marita, she keeps track of which pop-up session is where. And if you have a subject that you want to talk about with a few people, well, most of the rooms are pretty big. We have the Sonora and the McKinley, and it's pretty big, but you can register. We have about 10 slots or so left for these pop-up sessions. So if you got anything interesting to talk about, don't be shy and go to Reg Desk and ask for a pop-up session. Then there is something on your schedule called the community track. Might not be immediately obvious what that is, but that's always in HUD. And every single block in the community track will have 2 people talking about their experience working with FHIR. So actually creating projects, making working software with FHIR, and they were talking about their challenges and how they solve them. So those are the community tracks in HUD. And finally, of course, DevDays is not just about tutorials. We have a large room, the McKinley, where you can sit down. There's lots of space there to put your laptop down and try out what you have learned. Or find someone that you want to exchange data with and try out whether your software works actually with their server, whether your client works. Try that out. We call it a meet and code, and McKinley conveniently starts with MC, so that's how I remember it. Meet and code in the McKinley, and that's where you can drop down your laptop and actually do some work. Also, there is a selfie wall. So you can stand in front of it, take a picture of yourself, and if you post that to Twitter, the tag is obviously there, you're in one of the first 20 to do so, run back to registration desk, and they will have a wonderful, I use them every day, a wonderful set of FHIR socks. I mean, you don't want to miss out on those, right? So get yourself in front of that selfie wall and tweet to FHIR DevDays. And there's a series of sessions called Let's Build. Let's build. Click. Yes, let's build. So we could totally imagine that after you've seen the tutorial, you really want to try it out. And what better way to do it is with the actual teacher that taught you that track, that tutorial. So many of the tutorials, your speaker in the end will invite you to join them, mostly to the McKinley, and try out what you just learned. So it's kind of a guided trying out, guided hacking, and lots of speakers have pre-created exercises. This is the link. If you go there to devdays.com/US/exercises, I must say I didn't check this morning. There's some kind of tradition that these exercises are always posted late. I don't know how that goes. Most speakers, I think, finish their presentations, just like me last minute in the plane going down here. And but they will end up on that link. And you can do those exercises together with your speaker, which probably helps out a lot. You don't need to code. You can, of course, ask them questions too, but that's our last Let's Build sessions. They're marked in a separate color in the schedule. So what to do in the evening? For Monday, for today actually, I think the answer is hacking. So for our hobby, our biggest passion, create software, that's for tonight. If you want, of course, we will supply the food and drinks in the McKinley. So we'll set up a place to eat and have food, and then we can go on until 8 p.m. Trying out stuff. So you're not kicked out at 6 o'clock here from these premises. We can go on until 8 a.m., have some food, and work a little bit. Tuesday is the day for our social event. That's another big DevDays tradition. Again, when we were back in those days, we fit all in one single canal boat going through Amsterdam, which was pretty fun. That won't work anymore. So we have dinner here at the McKinley in the big room, and then we will go to the I think it's the Museum of Pop Culture. But I'll have way more details about that tomorrow in tomorrow morning's session. Wednesday is a bit shorter because we end at 5, but to say goodbye to you, we will have farewell drinks till 5 p.m. and then we will each send you on your way. So that means that on Thursday, unfortunately, there's nothing left for you to do but think about what happened here. The FHIR team is going to do a nice hike out in the Olympic National Park. I'm so looking forward to that. Just 3 more days of DevDays and then we'll hike. That would be nice too. Anyway, so that's for the evenings, and more details about the social event tomorrow. Staying up to date. Everything changes. I already told you about those pop-up sessions, and so the schedule will change over the days. And of course, as soon as you have printed a copy of the stuff that you got, there were already changes. So we have the participant booklet that you'll have, but there was an inlay with already some of the latest changes to the schedule. And there will be more, I'm sure. So we will be keeping the website up to date. So your safest bet is going to the schedule here on devdays.com because that will be kept up to date. But also there are screens in the hallways that will show all the major changes to the program. And so this is also probably the best way to keep track of where those pop-up sessions are. It's almost Father's Day. I mean, I see it everywhere here. And funnily enough, I found this one. Isn't it wonderful? A massage chair. It's a brilliant Father's Day gift choice. It actually says ideal gift for parents. So if you don't know what to give for next week, those stock photos. Who comes up with those? Look at that pair there. Well, anyway, if you're in the mood for a massage chair, you can't take it with you, unfortunately. We have massages for you, chair massages for you all day. And so you probably have to line up for them, but they're pretty popular over the last editions. And, take advantage of those. Then the highlights for today. Of course, this is in your schedule, but I want to just, make sure you don't miss them. The first one is a talk by Steve Posnack, about FHIR-based APIs and information blocking. And immediately after that, followed by a talk by Mickey. Mickey, I must say, this is such a wonderful picture. I just had to say that. This is just you. Anyway, Mickey, at 5 minutes past 2, answering the call of FHIR. I must compliment both guys here with the titles for the presentations. Nice, a short title and then some little more information. Beautiful. Well done. So that's, I realize I put this in military time. That's what we do in Europe. So I'll translate this for you. That's 1:45 to 5 minutes past 2. And then the next one is 5 minutes past 2 to 2:30. DevDays, most frequently asked question. Where can I get this stuff? there's so much stuff going on that you can't see everything. We have planned in a few repeat slots, but it's for sure there will be things that you can't see. Don't worry about that. Everything, almost everything that we can record, we will record. And we will release it to you after DevDays. Gives us a few days to edit a little bit and make it ready for you. You will receive normally a mail with a password, and then you can download, view the presentations and show them to your colleagues at home, or watch them at home with your family. And then I think about after half a year or so, we will just remove the password and everyone can see them. But first few months, it's exclusively there for you. So don't worry if you miss out, stuff will be there. And then I want to say a little bit about both co-presenters of this meeting, DevDays. There are so many new people that I can totally imagine that some of you will be like, what's this HL7 part doing before the FHIR? I mean, FHIR gets really popular. HL7 is the international organization mostly consisting of volunteers that work on the FHIR standard. So they spend their evenings writing down the spec that you all have been reading and using. And we are changes to the standards that of course follows a formal process. So 3 times a year we meet up at these plenary working group meetings. And the next one will be in September, where we will be discussing the FHIR standards. Actually 2 things. It starts with the Connectathon. And after that, we'll have a week of discussing the finer points of all the change requests that came in. I don't know if you ever found a link on the FHIR spec. There's a link that suggests a change. You have no idea what happens when you press that. If you press it, you can of course do a request for change, but some group of people in some evening, or actually these meetings, will be discussing your materials and deciding on whether we're going to apply the change or not. So these working group meetings are really nice events to get to know the people that work on the FHIR standard and also influence it. So if you're interested in that, get to one of these meetings. The next one is in Atlanta in September, and become an HL7 member. The other co-organizer is the company that I work for, FHIR. There's a lot of yellow here. And we produce some software, of course, that you might know, like Forge the Profile Editor. And me, myself, I have created a .NET API that you might be using. So you can bother me about that later on if you want. And I've got a nice announcement to make. We're obviously, you could hear that from my accent, we're based in Amsterdam. But there's so much going on here in the US that we have decided to join forces with a company called FHIR in Boston. And FHIR is a health app developer, and together we think we can even serve you better. So yes, we'll actually not completely leave after today. We now also have a Boston office for FHIR on Broad Street. And as you can see, very important criteria. Down there at 77 is a bar, which is always pleasant. And to celebrate that, we have brought some soccer stuff with us, right? I know soccer is a big thing in IT, but so on the left-hand side, we brought a T-shirt and a few T-shirts actually from our Amsterdam team, Ajax. Who pretend that the future is here. And there's, of course, the Boston Red Sox. And if you want to have a chance of winning those, you can see that I have, again, this exercise link. We have a hidden exercise there somewhere. And if you do that exercise, you can actually win one of these presents. So check out the exercise. It has something to do with questionnaire. And you could win these socks. And if you're totally uninterested in soccer, we also brought our favorite drug from the Netherlands. Some of you who've been here before know about this. This is called Stroopwafel, or Stroopwafel in US English. And they're caramel cookies, basically, but they're addictive. We brought them too. So there's always someone there for you. And maybe in the evenings, if you're bored, we brought a little bit more. We brought the classical Dutch game of Quartets with us. We changed it a little bit. We made a FHIR theme. So at the FHIR booth, which is next to the Reg desk, you can pick up your Quartet game and have something to do with your friends and family when you're done watching all those videos, right? All right, that's about it. Those are the details for today. Here's the FHIR DevDays tag again. As I said, if you're one of the first 20, you can get socks, and otherwise just start tweeting, start working, and I wish you a lot of fun in the next 3 days. Thanks.